So thanks, TJ. As he said, my name is Dave Cook. Can everybody hear me? We had a mic up here last week. It actually makes it easier. I don't have to sit here and hold it the whole time like a journalist. But I'm Dave Cook. Company is Right-Sized Inventory. First, I want to say a big thanks to everybody involved with bringing 1 million cups to Albuquerque. I think this is great. I'm really fired up about the support system for entrepreneurs here in Albuquerque and excited to be here. Occasionally, I'll call Right-Sized Inventory RSI for short, just to make sure I stay within the 6 allotted minutes. So what is Right-Sized Inventory? We're a solutions company. We offer consulting and we offer patented cloud software to help any company in retail, distribution, or manufacturing know with confidence that they have the right amount of inventory. It's a big challenge for a lot of companies to know they have it. A lot of companies guess, and what we're trying to do here is make sure they know, again, with confidence that they have the right amount of inventory. So our clients upload data to our solution, and we provide answers. So those answers are, 1, the right amount of inventory to have on hand, and 2, the guidance to achieve that right amount of inventory. Our tagline is better science, better value. Better science because we know from experience that the technology and the analysis behind RSI is as good as or better than anything else, any competing solutions in the market. Better value because, frankly, those competing solutions are way too expensive. Our mission is to make this technology affordable to nearly everyone. So we're going to talk here in a minute about kind of the value that we're delivering for our clients and our launch status. But first I want to start with the problem. So everybody loves a quiz. We're going to do a little Accounting 101 quiz. Is inventory an asset or a liability? I love it. So the first answer was the right one, and then the rest of you were all my setup guys. So accounting rules define inventory as an asset. And inventory is absolutely an asset to, say, a grocery store. That lady's not having a fun shopping day, right? And really, it's an asset to just about any retail environment. It's frankly an asset to any business where your customer expects to get your product faster than you can build it or buy it. Pretty simple, right? The reality is, while it's an asset, it so often feels more like a liability, and most of you answered that, just as my setup guy. So why is that? Why does it feel like a liability? Well, because it often looks like that. And it also depends on who you're talking to. If you're talking to the finance guys or the lean guys, they'll treat it like a liability. Treat it like a liability because it does look like that. That's a lot of inventory, right? So let me ask you a question. How does that company know they have the right amount of inventory?
By using right now.
Okay, payment coming later. So the reality is they probably don't, unless they have tools. So let's get them some tools. Now, easier said than done. So I'm going to spend just a little bit of time talking about supply chain in general. Won't make this too dry and boring, but there are some fundamental elements of supply chain that are critical to running an efficient supply chain and critical to doing effective inventory analysis. So really simple supply chain here, but there's a couple of fundamental elements we need to keep in mind. The first is represented by the graph there under customers. Demand varies, and that volatility in demand is absolutely essential to good inventory analysis. The second is these little gray arrows, circular arrows, represent what we call replenishment lead time. So between any node in the supply chain, that represents how long it takes you to replenish inventory, whether that's shipping it from a DC, building it in a factory, buying it from suppliers. Like demand, that lead time also varies. So it varies throughout. It's pretty obvious it varies here because you might have a supplier down the street or one on the other side of the world. But we're not done yet with those factors. Inventory is heavily affected by how frequently we build or buy and that frequency is impacted heavily by any minimum quantities we might have, lot sizes in the factory, or dictated minimum purchase quantities from a supplier. The reality again about supply chain, fundamental reality is, even if you get all of those factors exactly right, your factory's as lean as it's going to run, your suppliers are winning supplier excellence awards, if your customer expects to receive your product faster than you can build it or buy it, you're going to have to carry inventory. You're going to have to buffer that difference with inventory. So if we think of buckets as kind of a simple graphical means of saying this is where we're going to have to carry inventory. We've optimized everything else, but we're going to have to carry inventory in these places, then that's the mission of right-sized inventory. First, through consulting services, some of our clients need help knowing where those buckets have to be and how to best replenish, how to optimize replenishment. But beyond that, even if they don't need our help with that, fundamentally they're still left with the question, how much goes in the bucket? Or how much inventory do I really need to run my business? And that's right-sized inventory. So how are we doing? Here's the status. The solution is live and market ready. We're up and running with 7 trial customers, so early phase, but seeing some great results. Across the 7 trial customers, we have nearly 3,000 items that are in active trial. And across the 3,000 items, we've identified greater than 2.2 million in excess inventory. So it'd be easy to conclude our trial customers just have way too much inventory. But we've also identified shortages on nearly 20% of the items. And that's the mission of the company. That is right-sized inventory. When you can identify and eliminate excess and put cash back in the client's pocket, and at the same time improve customer service by identifying the items that don't have enough and resolving those shortages, that's our mission, and that's how we add value to our client base. So that's it. Thanks for the opportunity to present. We'll turn it over to questions.
So Q&A time. This is 20 minutes, so we have plenty of time. Think about his presentation and questions. Usually questions are in 2 formats. You're wondering about something here. Tell me more of your story, Dave, or have you considered this? So again, the community aspect of this is we want to help Dave. We want Dave to help each of you as well. So let's open it up for questions. Yes, sir.
So do you have a sweet spot on customer size or profile? I know that I assume that larger customers, use SAP, Sage, or some of the Great Plains inventory plugins to do this type of analysis.
Yeah, it's a great question. So initially in the target market, we're definitely going after small to medium-sized companies that traditionally could never afford this technology. A lot of my competitors are $500,000 and up, so they're just out of reach of small to medium-sized companies. So that's been an initial target, but at the same time, out of the 7 trial customers, 2 of them are Fortune 500. So it really depends on whether they already have any tools in place. You'd be surprised how many big companies are running inventory planning with no tools other than Excel and heuristics.
How long have you been live? And have you been able to reduce that excess inventory?
Well, so we've only been live about 30 days. So quick progress on building a group of trial customers. And no, we have not reduced excess yet because they're still trial customers. I haven't gotten them to give me their money yet. But very close on several of them. Quotes out to several of them. I think that's happening soon, and they're all equally as excited as I am because seeing the results and being confident that it really is going to be a robust answer. It's one thing to say I can take 2.2 million out of your inventory. It's another thing to say I can do that and not put your business at risk.
Do you factor in the concept of risk, and how do you measure that with regard to your recommendations?
We'd probably have to talk more to understand fully what you mean by risk, but I'll say that the number one input, the way we run, so it's a patented solution, and the core of the patent is the application of Monte Carlo simulation to preserve customer service level.
So you are measuring risk in that measure.
Right.
And you statistically talk to your customers.
Oh, absolutely. When we read in there's two places where that happens primarily. We read in their demand data and we auto-select the right statistical pattern to evaluate that demand data. So that's part of the better science. And then once we've done that, we use Monte Carlo simulation to find the most robust answer on the amount of inventory that will preserve their customer service. So first and foremost, we're trying to preserve customer service level. So out of the 7, 2 of them are med device companies, which are traditionally very conservative about any inventory programs because their gross margins are so high. Why would I risk inventory reduction at the expense of my customers? And they're excited about this because fundamentally, we can reduce our inventory, but with an answer that is designed primarily to preserve customer service. Yeah.
A couple things. One is, how do you, you're obviously in the early stages, but how do you anticipate the time scale of rolling out with some kind of normal company that might be a customer? How long will that take? The other is, how involved do you get with conversations of the manufacturer or whatever so that you truly have a good insight into how long it's going to take to replace inventory if there is a spike or something into that?
Right. So 2 great questions, 2 different questions. So let me answer the first one first because that's easier. So rollout time is very, very fast. Somebody could be up and running in hours because all it takes is a CSV file upload to our system to get started. We offer some services to go query data out of a system and make it a little more seamless for a client if they want that. But if they're comfortable querying data out of their own system and compiling a CSV file, they could be up and running in hours. Literally, the long pole for a client is assembling the data they need that our solution requires. So now the harder question of a multi-echelon supply chain, and if you really want to, a cure for insomnia, go Google multi-echelon inventory optimization. There's a ton written about this, and it's why my competitors try and justify $500,000 and up for a price point. It's really not that complex, my opinion. So it's essential that you take into account the fact that inventory is carried at multiple points. You saw those buckets at multiple points across the supply chain. And as you load data into our solution and analyze how much inventory you need, the inputs you're reflecting are different depending on where you are in the supply chain. Your lead time and lead time variation, if you're talking about suppliers that are down the street and in China, is quite a bit different versus a factory that might be running within a very low level of variability in their process, right? So those things have to be taken into account. To some extent, good inventory planners, and within the 7 trial customers, a lot of them have good inventory planners, so they know how to reflect that. They just don't have a tool to then get the answer, So a good inventory planner is going to know how to reflect those different inputs depending on where they are in the supply chain. And if a client doesn't have that internal talent level on the bench, then that's why we offer the consulting services. Yes?
Do you take into account the variances with respect to market dynamics as far as people purchasing and how much they're purchasing at any particular time of year, over a quarter, 6 months, that type of thing? And then on top of that, in looking at that, do you take into account purchase quantities and the prices that are associated with that for the particular distributor or supplier?
So right now, all of our value data is based off cost. So if I don't know if I'm answering the question, but if somebody has variable price points with different retailers, but they have an internal standard cost that they assume in their system, it'd be the cost that we use because that's what's used to value inventory. So we wouldn't necessarily be as concerned about the retail price points as they would, obviously, for revenue, but we'd use that cost measure. In terms of seasonality, we absolutely do take it into account. We don't have live the ability to interpret seasonality yet, but we're working on that. So that'd be the goal. For right now, if a client knew they had seasonality, then what we would have them do is basically break that into 2 items, a low season item and a high season item, and run them both through with the right demand, with the right data inputs.
How far back do you go as far as the data to determine?
Well, so in terms of historical demand, we go off daily demand because we feel daily demand is the best measure statistically of volatility in a business. Even if your cycles are weekly or even monthly, you still should be looking at daily demand because that will give you the best view of volatility. So we use daily demand, and there's no limit. There's no lower or upper limit, frankly, on how much daily demand you load into the solution. We recommend at least 90 days, but we've got one trial client that's running almost 500 days. So.
What's your history and why did you pick this problem?
Well, my history is all this problem: supply chain and manufacturing operations, and
Tell, Dave.
And so consistently through corporate career, so I did Intel supply chain for about 9 years, and then I was involved with Eclipse here. Then I was with the supply chain consulting practice for about 4 years. And throughout all that, with the consulting practice, I walked through hundreds of factories and hundreds of operations. And throughout all of that, this was the biggest white space I observed. Consistently big companies with lots of inventory operating in Excel to try and plan inventory.
Can you describe chronologically your personnel structure, the organization of the company? You started with the founder, got a programmer, or how you developed the company structure?
Yeah, so is this probably the last one? I don't know. I mean,
No, we
okay,
have some
all right.
time.
And not trying to cut them off because great questions. So here's, piling onto that last answer, observing the white space and kind of feeling this white space painfully. In the consulting practice, I was running business development for that consulting practice, and I was having clients offer me big consulting engagements to solve that problem, and we were doing it in Excel. Professional consultants, but we were doing it in Excel. And in fact, I created the Excel file that we used within the consulting solution to do this. Well, let me tell you, my Excel file was nowhere near as good as what we're doing here. So first thing I knew when I wanted to go out and do this as a real business was that I needed a better solution. So I have a business partner who owns the patent behind this. And then Steve Cook is doing all of my development. So right now it's the three of us. We don't have any employees yet since we're early phase, but my business partner, I sound like I know a fair amount about this, and he could talk for hours on any of these subjects. It's where he spent his entire life, and he owns the patent behind both the methodology and the technology. So it was really critical that I went out and found, I didn't want to put better science up there if I didn't know that that's true. And I know from a couple of clients and from being a consultant, I know how those $500,000 companies do their inventory analysis. Ours is better at 3% of the price.
How'd you find that business partner? How'd you find your initial squad here?
Through connections with the consulting firm. So he had been a consultant in the past with the same consulting firm, and all those guys kind of run in the same circles. He actually, full story, he contacted me to ask me to help him sell his solution. So he had his technology, and he was employing it within his consulting practice to do one-off inventory optimization. So send me all your data, I'll send you back the answer of how much inventory you should have. And he asked me, how can I sell that? I need some sales and marketing advice. And I met with him and said, well, bad news is I can't help you because you can't sell that because nobody wants to buy one-time inventory optimization. The reality is it's recurring. I need the answer over and over. Good news is I think I have a great idea for how we can partner.
Cool. Yeah, let's go to one that hasn't asked a question.
So Dave,
Yes.
I own a yoga studio, relatively small amount of inventory, right? 17 to 20 grand at any given time. So two questions. How small is too small? And then just walk us through your pricing structure on an absolute basis and compared to
Right. So yeah, so the entry point right now, we also have 7 trial customers, so it's all negotiable. The entry point right now is $1 per item per month with a minimum of 20 items. So you could buy into this solution for $240 a year, and that may help your business, right? That's designed for the small people who don't have a lot of items but need some help. And the highest price we have now, enterprise package, unlimited items, $5,000 a year. So this is I'm trying to build a volume business, right? I want 5,000 customers, you know, and instead of selling it for $500,000 and up and having 100 customers, 5,000 customers.
Did you say 50,000 customers?
50. Yes.
Yeah, you had a question, and then you, and then we'll go to you. Yeah, yep.
If I understand correctly, you're using existing past data so that you can statically give them an optimum inventory as of today.
Mm-hmm.
But we all live in the future as opposed to the past.
Right.
How do you work with your customers who say the past is not prologue, the future will be different than it is today? And how do you measure that? How do you factor that into your calculations?
Yeah, so first of all, absolute reality, with 100% certainty, the future will be different than the past, right? We all know that. The challenge is so many people plan inventory solely based off forecast. And there's two kinds of forecasts, lucky and lousy. So what we say is your history is very relevant for what your demand pattern is likely to look like. The scale may be different, but your history is still relevant. So use your history as a measure of volatility, because that's really critical in how we assess how much inventory you should have. And then from there, we take a really simple application to that, and that's we allow a customer to factor that up or down based on expected growth or decline. Now, there's a couple other tricks that we do with using some alternate items, but for now, it's as simple as, and if you could also Google demand-driven forecasting or statistical forecasting, and oh, by the way, all of those statistically based forecasting tools are doing the same thing we're doing. They use history and analysis of history to project into the future. So we're doing the same thing. We're using history to say this is what volatility and statistically what your demand pattern should look like. And then if you believe your business is growing or declining, great. Factor that in and you'll get a factored answer.
Cool. A couple more questions.
What challenges do you have with your current trial customers in aggregating their data? And are you planning on pricing for professional services and help desk things?
Yes.
Services.
Right. So the first question is definitely the hard one. I mean, John asked the lead time question, how long it takes a customer to get up and running. That's our biggest challenge. I think in terms of bringing customers on quickly and growing the business quickly, it's that people look at it and they go, oh, I'd love to have that. What do I have to do? And then they see the data input spec and they go, oh, how am I going to get all that data, right? So, you know, I don't know that we have a great solution yet, other than what we're working on are some kind of standard structured SQL queries that we could use with a client, or we could even just give them the SQL code and say, here, run with this. All you need to do is just replace the targets in the SQL code. If they've got an IT guy that knows SQL, it should be pretty simple. So, you know, it's not an easy problem to solve, absolutely, and it's the one that we most need to solve because it's the ramp that would prevent somebody from getting on board with us. And with regard to professional consulting, we definitely do have pricing in mind. Consistent with the software, I'm going to undersell the market. I know what the market is for consulting because I sold it for 4 years, and I'm right now pricing at about 50% of the market. Consulting is not where I want to make my money. I want to make my money through the software, but the consulting is sort of necessary evil to some extent, because some people are just going to need that help to know how to best utilize the software in their operation.
And actually, this builds on the last couple of questions relatively well. I wondered, you mentioned your mission, you know, your desire to make this available to nearly everybody. How did you come to that? Because it seems to me you have that dilemma that we're kind of talking around. Is, you know, does the scalability play well with the business model of going to these smaller end businesses who need a lot of coaching?
Yeah, so this is an anecdotal answer, and I wish it was a statistical answer, and I'm working hard to make this a data-driven answer, and that is, anecdotally, I believe, just based on my own experience and little informal surveys that I've done, that it's staggering. Inventory is such a core need for a lot of businesses and a core part of their business, and it's staggering how underserved it is in terms of solutions in the market. If you say sales and marketing is a huge concern for a lot of businesses, and go Google sales and marketing and you're getting inundated with 15 marketing automation platforms, 15 CRMs. There's tons of companies serving that market, and people aren't serving this. It's really underserved. And I think the anecdotal answer is, if you surveyed companies, I believe up to 90% of companies or close to that would say they have some degree of inventory deficiency, excess, shortage, or both. And then you take that pool as the denominator and say, how many of them have a good tool to address that other than spreadsheets? And again, about 90% of them would have nothing other than spreadsheets to use to address that business problem. So it's pretty crazy. I mean, for as big an issue as inventory is in businesses, I think it's staggering how few companies really have good tools to help them address it. And again, in my opinion, it's because the competing solutions in the space have always been way too expensive. They've been priced at enterprise level, so there's been nothing there to help a small, medium-sized company.
Last question for you, Dave.
Yes.
And then we'll take a coffee break and have our second startup. What is the biggest need you have that this community here can help you with?
Okay, great. So two things. One is I have a big need for ad copywriting. We have a lot of legacy collateral within the business that was written by either me or my business partner and is kind of dry inventory related stuff. So having a good ad copywriter that can turn that into something that the public would actually want to read is a priority for us. And the second is, this is not supposed to be promotional, but I told you that my mission is that I want to make this affordable to nearly everyone, and I believe at a very low price point with easily rationalized return, we can add value to small companies. So I would love to have the chance to work with as many New Mexico companies as possible that have inventory deficiency and build the base there, give back to the community that way, and just build this big base around New Mexico companies using RSI. So if you know of any companies that have inventory pain and might be interested, I'd love to hear about them. Talking to several already. 2 of the 7 are New Mexico companies, but I'd like to, again, make that a lot bigger than it is.
Great.
Oh. Thank you. So last question was how to find me, www.rightsizedinventory.com.
Find them there. We're going to have 4 minutes for announcements / get up and...
So, as you said, my name is Anna Citro, co-founder and founder of Apache Fire Industries. And our business is where darkness comes to light. That's our theme. Our business is bringing light to the darkness. Now, you might wonder, what does that mean? Well, my husband here was a firefighter for 14 years and knows the challenges and the dangerous environments that firefighters face when they're fighting fire. You don't think of it very often, but when firefighters go out on the job, they are trained to go into burning buildings, right? They're trained a lot of times to do evacuations at night, or even if it's in the day, a lot of times they can't see. So too often you find a lot of firefighters, studies show that a lot of them die 3 to 5 feet from the fire hose. And the reason why is because they're trained to go in and follow this is called their lifeline. We showed you an example. So we made these are to simulate 50 feet of a fire hose. So these are, you don't know a lot about them, but these are what lead firemen out. So when they let them go to do a simple search, maybe a search and rescue and drop it, the situation can go from bad to worse in seconds. So if you can picture that, we've tested our product. This is called the Fire Ant, and it's an adapter. Now we're going to show you how this works, but before we show you, I want to let Dalbert talk to you personally about why this is so important and why we came up with this and why we believe in it so much and why we need help, entrepreneurs help. So go ahead, Dalbert.
Okay, thanks. So right now, what we face in the fire department, we're understaffed because of budget cuts and stuff. So when we go in as a hose team, we're doing 2-3 jobs at a time. So as simply as coming through this is like this couch is an obstacle. We're gonna have to put the hose down and move it. Or go in and find something or open a door, and we can easily become lost and disoriented. And that's how firefighters die. Become lost and disoriented, and our training tells us, find a wall, do a right-hand search, find a door, do a sweep, find a window, find a hose. That's the easiest, quickest, safest way out is to follow your hose. So, but once you find the hose, it's still a challenge. Because once again, this is 50 feet. And what if you run in the middle? What if you're on the wrong end and you follow it? And if you follow it the wrong way, you're just going further into the structure. So what we're trying to do, this is a female and this is a male. So what we're trying to do is follow the female out first, ladies first. But still, we have to find it, fill in the dark. And it could snake around, all kind of obstacles. So how I came up with this idea of this adapter, I was in a hotel fire in Farmington last Valentine's Day. So we went into a motel. It was on the second floor. Got reports, flames coming out the window, out the door, and we were looking for it. We got up to the second floor. That whole floor was just smoky. We couldn't see. And we were ordered by a battalion chief to go in and find the fire without our hose. And you know, our instincts was tell us, take our hose, but he yelled at us, get up there and find it. We'll get a hose team after you. So we're looking, we're popping doors, and there was people still in there. So we're getting them, and we're taking them out to the stairwell, and they were choking on smoke, getting them down as fast as possible. Then we found it at the last end of the door. We popped the door, and there it was. It was just everything. It was a storage room for mattresses. So the mattresses were on fire, and it came above us, and we had no hose. And inside that building, it was an old structure, a concrete building, but we didn't know it at the time, and we couldn't radio it in. At the same time, the ladder crew was outside of us, and they seen it. By us opening the door, it fed it what it needed. So they hit it with a 2.5-inch hose, and it pushed the fire down on us, me and my captain, and we got pinned inside that room. So I don't know if you ever got steamed before. I could hear the captain. I got knocked over. My lights went out. The captain, I could hear him screaming, and then I just felt a burning sensation from my head all the way to my toes, like bee stings. And my training told me, I thought the ceiling came down on me, so I put my bottle in the corner. At the same time, I could hear the captain screaming, and I'm trying to find him at the same. And I found a wall, and all I can think about was, get the hell out of here. This thing is going to come down on us. Then I heard the hose team come in, and I can hear him talking, but I couldn't see him. All I could hear is, we're short, we're 20 feet short, we need more hose. And I was on the ground crawling, looking for a wall, and I could see boots. And that's all I could see, and I crawled over there, and I asked him, which way is the way out? And I went back and grabbed the captain. Me and the captain we came out, and he said, which way is the way out? And he said, follow our hose, follow the hose. And I looked down, and I couldn't see it. So I remember just get back on the wall, and we ran to the stairwell, and our mask, everything was just melted. And the helmet came down, our turnout gear was destroyed. So this is where I came up with the idea of this. So what we do is you put this between the sections of the hose. Hold this. Add that one. So imagine this is a hose, the whole thing. So as it's packed onto the truck and we deploy it to go inside of a burning building. Oops. So once it's that one deployed, the lights automatically come on. So you don't need an on and off switch. So we have a blue, we have a green, and we have an amber. So with these colors, why I chose these colors? Because you could see these lights, these colors in smoke. And we tested them in Chicago Fire Department and Farmington Fire Department. And we banked the smoke all the way down to 2 inches off the ground, and we could see it up to 6 feet away. And in studies show, like once Anna said, that firefighters are found dead 3 to 5 feet from the hose, searching for it, and they run out of air, and they pull their mask. So it stays on until you come out, and the way you deactivate it, is just by touching it with the simple magnet. So you don't have to worry about accidentally turning it off as you're dragging it around obstacles and stuff. And it's designed to take a beating. 12 bright LED lights on there. It's embedded in this epoxy that reflects heat. These 2 battery doors are waterproof. They run off 32 coin cell batteries, up to 8 to 10 hours of battery life. Plenty of time to get the job done. When you're done, you just swap out batteries. And so that was, oh, and why the colors? Blue, this will be behind the nozzle representing water, green at 150, and amber at 100 feet. So you have 200 feet of hose. So if you go in there and we find a victim, you can radio it in. I found a victim at the green section, 150 feet in. How do you know that? Because this is at 150 feet. Or if we have to find a hose and things go bad and you find it, and if you see blue, you know you went the wrong way. And you got to go the other way. Well, you want green, orange. Also, the color puts the light on the female, what you need to see. The light will automatically know where you need to go. The couplings are so important to finding your way out. It'll lead, as soon as you get on the hose, you'll know, hey, I got to go that way. The female's this way. Then you follow it out. So, any other questions? Okay.
Tell you what, you ought to get this thing on the Today Show or something. When afterwards, you give me a card and I'll give you the guy's name to talk to there.
Okay.
Because this is a hell of an idea.
Yes, it is. And you know what? All the fire departments we tested in Chicago, they all love it. They all think it's a good idea. The only thing that's keeping them back is the money. And then we drove, because our first problem is, as you see here, it was machined. It was CNC machined, and it drove our costs up. So now we want to die cast it. And it drove a...
This is easy die casting.
Yeah. And we fixed the doors too. So the new doors will be turned this way and it's flush.
Okay.
So we drove the cost down from...
How far are you into this project?
All we have quotes on the die casting. We have the circuit board quotes, everything. All we need is the funding to get going.
Why don't you try something like crowdfunding?
We are. That's why we're here. Go ahead.
Do you have a patent?
Yes, we have a patent pending on it.
Hey, first of all, thank you for your service.
Thank you.
It's one of the most honorable professionals that we have in this country, so thank you, seriously. What is the actual adapter made out of? Is it steel? And historically, have you ever looked at how the price of that raw material can change over time, and impact your cost of goods sold or your expenses?
So all like in the fire service, aluminum. It's 6061 billet aluminum. So what you do, we hard anodize it, or that it's brass, because rust. So, but we went away with rust. I mean, from brass because it's heavy. So. Yes, this one right here. Yeah, it is hard anodized, and so is this one.
How many units would you need, say, for a truck or a team?
Okay, so each truck engine will have 2 crosslays up top here, and then I have a crosslay in the back. So you have 3 1.5-inch hose, or 3 inch and 3, or a tack line, they call it. So, and we sell them as kits. Do you want the blue, green, and the orange? So it worked effective. So you'll have a kit on 2 kits here, so you need 3 kits, at least 9 units or 3 kits.
And what would your current cost per kit be?
So if you buy it, if we get up and launched and we can meet the demand, you can get it for us at $695, which is far more cheaper than you would get from a distributor, because in our business, distributors is that carry. That we sell to distributors because they have boots on the ground, they have a well-established pipeline, they go to the fire departments, they have relationships with them, they knock on the doors. But if we get it to them, we're going to have to sell it to them for anywhere from $575 to $600, and they're going to mark it up 40%. And they're going to add a little bit more to it. So they're going to look at the distributors, they're going to get it from $800 to $900. If you could buy it from us, you could save at least $200-300.
So of those 2 models, what have you found relationships, or what's seeming more promising? The distributors, you say they're boots on the ground. You could have good relationships, but you could get it into firefighters' hands cheaper if
you go through us.
Direct. So
yeah.
So what have you learned so far about both those?
See, distributors is probably be best for us, because when they buy it, they're going to buy a lot. They're going to buy at least anywhere from 200-300 kits. and they're going to pay up front. If it's for us, we have to wait on the fire departments with grants, put it in their budget. You got to look for money to pay for it. But when we get it to distributors, they pay for it, and then it's their problem after that. But if they buy it from us, then we have to wait on them looking for money. But they'll get it at a cheaper price.
Somebody hasn't asked the question yet?
Go ahead.
You, go ahead.
So have you, the one thing that I'm thinking of is how hard is it, well, how often do they break down the hoses? Because that would be when they're going to change the batteries, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the other question is, have you thought of putting in like a rechargeable battery so you can sell just like an induction kit where they can throw them on a pad and they just start charging?
Okay. One thing about the rechargeable stuff in the fire service doesn't work so well. I mean, you know, it's just batteries. We have all fire departments have battery outlets and stuff that we buy a huge order of batteries. Second thing is every fire we do, structure fire we do, we break down the hose and we clean it so it comes off. It's just a maintenance thing that we all do. Firemen, that's our job. Is if you don't see us out in the streets or doing medical calls and stuff, we're maintaining our equipment. We're cleaning our bottles. We're cleaning our mask, cleaning our gear. This is just another instrument here too. And you know what? And by far, if we sell this at $600-700 for our kit, a flashlight in the fire service, rechargeable one, is $650. So, and then, yeah, and a flashlight for a helmet, that's $150. You know, so everything in the fire service is expensive once you get distributors.
They do a lot of casting and things like that, different kinds of things. What is your procedure right now that you're doing? Besides that's been smelling to me, but what's the next one you want to do?
We want to do die casting because it drives the cast.
You might also look at lost wax and sand casting. It doesn't sound like that sand casting can be done extremely accurately and get you to a point where you can do the threads and things like that.
Investment casting, in fact, we did look into that, and it's just they when we show it to them, they always tell us, you know what, you're better off with die casting because die casting you're going to get a better product and it's going to be built tough to take the beating it's going to take.
All right.
And then you.
So in terms
Go
of
ahead.
curiosity, have you talked to fire, I mean, obviously you are a fireman, so what is the budget that the captain can approve for that department? Or do you have to go to the city or the fire department as a whole to do this? Can you make it to the point where you can just make it an individual decision for that captain?
Yeah, we can. If we get up and running and we sell it to the fire departments at from $650, we can get it lower it down for them. They can purchase it. They have they have a credit card. We call it P cards. If they need necessary equipment or need to try some, as long as it's under $1,000, they can purchase one. And by under the budget, if they want to do the whole mass, say Albuquerque, I think they have 25 stations and times 3 per. So you're looking at 75 to 100 kits. So now they're gonna have to put it in the budget.
What's the average life of a hose?
5 years. I mean, in NFPA standards, you have to swap them out 5 years. It doesn't care if it's brand new. You have to swap them out. The appliances, you go as long as until it falls apart. There's no lifespan on the appliances. But the hose, they make you swap it out. You have to test it every year too.
Other questions?
What kind of capital are you looking for to make the first few batches?
Well, we need 100 grand. So we're looking at $65,000 for inventory and $22,000 for the casting molds to get going.
Thank you for your service.
You're welcome.
And you said that you're doing crowdfunding. Can you tell us how to find where you're crowdfunding?
Yeah, at our website at www.apachefireindustriesnet, and we also have flyers here. And then there's a link on there that says contribute or donate, and you click on there. So what we're doing here is you could buy one, or you could buy two, or you could buy the kit. And we want you to go give it to your local fire department. Here, please try this out. Use it. Come back for more. Because, and in all honesty, firemen, you know, when I was a fireman, there was many times people come by the station and give us pizza, donuts, cake. We'll go out for breakfast and they'll buy our breakfast. But you know, this is what we need. We need equipment, safety equipment to help save lives. And this will go a long ways.
I got a question.
Go ahead.
Is there an official safety certification process?
Yeah, we followed the NFPA standard 1963, which means a drop test from 6 feet, hard anodized, proper markings on here, and right here, this orifice, it has to be 1.5 inches, so 0 friction loss. These lugs, Higbee sections here, and we're also getting the MSHA number for miners with Sandia Labs are working on it right now. So the mining company is also interested in it too. So you can take.
Fully certified by some third-party agency?
All you have to do is buy a standard, a book, and then you take it to the lab, and then they certify it. They'll do all the proper testing, and they give you a certification and say it's good to go.
Are you certified for firefighter
Yes.
usage right now?
Right now, but right now we're working on the MSHA too, so we can get it to the miners. Mining companies have all the money and safety budgets they need, and that's why we're trying to get the MSHA number.
Do you have any numbers on kind of maybe over the last 10 years or whatever that of how many people could have benefited from this type of technology? Was
That's
preventing
constantly-
injuries and deaths?
Every month, just go to.
It changes like literally on a daily basis, because what happens is, well, the United States, but even in the world, all the death total is being like, it slowly goes up. So like it's constantly being changed, and you can find the statistics on Firefighter Nation or
NIOSH.
NIOSH. You can find it on the websites where they keep track of all the fatalities that are going on. I don't recommend it, but a lot of it's posted on YouTube. If you want to hear the actual calls, you can hear the firemen saying, "Where's the hose? Where's the coupling? We can't find it." And so you can
As
hear.
part of the marketing, not necessarily the calls, but the data of, hey, here's potentially how many lives could have been saved and or injuries prevented or lessened by having this type of technology. Would be
Yeah, you know what, the fire departments, they know all, they get daily, monthly, they know all this. It's just, the number one thing is we need the budget to get it in there. But once you get it to distributors, they have all the time in the world to get it from distributors.
So, last question.
When you buy a hose set, there's two questions. When you buy a hose set, couplings come with, right?
You mean like a hose, regular hose? Yeah.
Yeah. So how many hose manufacturers are there?
Well, there's North American, Key, All American. I think 4 major ones in the USA, and then there's one in Canada, and then you got China ones that don't follow anything. But I tell you, I can tell you one thing though. They've been trying to do this safety thing for years and years and years. So what they have, our competition, is the glow-in-the-dark arrow stickers right here, and they also have reflective stickers right here. There's a need. Yeah, there's a need.
But you still can't see it.
You need a flashlight, or you still have to do a search, no matter which way, glow-in-the-dark arrows or reflective arrows. This is the only thing. It's like a beacon. It leads you right to the hose. You'll see it in the dark. You'll see it in the smoke. There's my hose. There's my cup link. I know what direction I need to be in. I know the color. I know how far I'm in.
All right, last question. You know what it is. What is the number one thing we as a community can do to help you moving forward?
You can go to our website, and you can contribute or buy a kit and donate to your local fire department, and then pass the word, and with the sense of urgency, hey, I contributed. Please contribute too. This is good. This is from New Mexico. We're going to lead the way in safety here. And you can just go out and just buy one for your fire department, or buy one, 2x2, buy a kit and give it to them. Tell them use it, and it'll catch on. I know it will.